First of all, well, congratulations on your reasonably successful film.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. So you're a producer on the movie as well. How did you know a Barbie movie would connect with audiences in the manner that it did? Or did you know?
Yeah, it's like 90% of me was certain that this would be a big deal and a massive hit. And then like 10% of me thought, oh, this could go so badly wrong. But I went after Greta Gerwig from the beginning to direct and hopefully write as well. And then she invited Noah to write with her without really even consulting him, but it meant we got two brilliant brains on the project. And it really came down to her saying yes to this. I had no doubt that this was gonna work as soon as she said yes.
And she was always your first choice then?
First choice.
Okay.
I just wasn't gonna let her say no. I had met her before because I've wanted to work with her for a while. You know, it was a pretty long process. It was about 6 years ago. We got the property. First we had to, you know, it was set up at Sony. We got it out of Sony, set it up at Warner Brothers, got Mattel's blessing to let us produce, then went after Greta.
Okay.
And then it was like the writing process. And yeah, obviously I didn't know it was gonna have the kind of, be the cultural phenomenon that it ended up being.
When did you realize that that was what it was going to be?
I knew there'd be big reactions to, I could say, it was all the way along, I was like, okay, I think people are picking up that we're trying to do something interesting here. You know, the fact that it's Greta Gerwig, people were like, Greta Gerwig in a Barbie movie, what? And so that was the right reaction, that's what I was hoping for. And then, you know, the pictures of Ryan and I rollerblading on Venice Beach came out and like, went even wider than I was expecting that. I was like, oh, people are gonna notice, of course, but it went kind of crazy. And it was starting to occur that, oh, this might even be bigger than I'm even thinking. And I believe in this more than anyone. So
of course.
I'd been thinking big for it and it still turned out bigger than I expected.
Hey, Barbie.
Yeah.
Can I come to your house tonight?
Sure. I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
In terms of this sort of, the version of the film and the adaptation or the idea of it, you know, were Mattel cool with that from the beginning? Did you have any kind of pushback with how kind of radical you were trying to make? Or
yeah,
I
mean, Mattel were amazing to let us do this. And I mean, they're a character in the film.
Yes.
Which I don't think they were expecting at all. But they had no idea until the script was done. So Greta and Noah's process is to go away and not let anyone see the script.
Okay. Even you?
Until they're totally finished. No, even me. We would kind of like, because it was COVID, so they were writing it during COVID, we would do, you know, talk over Zoom and check in and be like, how you guys going? And it was so fun because you could watch Greta and Noah like, you know, they're like, oh, we're working on this idea. So they'd tell us, you know, like working on this idea and then they kind of like, you know, when you talk to a comedian, you can tell sometimes they're like testing bits on you. They kind of like test bits with each other and we would just sit and, Tom and I would just sit and like watch them and be like, yeah, because Ken's probably, you know, Ken would probably be like, and you know, say something and then she'd jump in and be like, yeah, it's kind of like, and then before you know it, they're kind of writing a scene, but verbally and in front of you, and it's a fascinating process. And they write chronologically, so they don't map something out and then write it, which a lot of writers obviously do, but they write themselves into corners and write themselves out of corners.
Yeah, like we used to do as kids, just like write a story and then
and like let it unfold. And I think because of that, the story has a quality of, you know, you not getting too far ahead of it, like because they didn't know where it was going to end up really. So it was fascinating to kind of watch their process, and I think the movie is so, you know, amazing and original because of that process. But then, came the day where the script was in our inbox and Tom and I sat down on the couch to read it. And like, even on page 1, I was just like, oh, wow, okay. It's gonna be hard to convince them to let us to do this, but I'm loving it. I mean, it started with a Kubrick reference, like completely redoing 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is what Mattel had in mind. And then by the end of the script, you know, I was just like, wow, they're never gonna let us make this. It's such a shame that this brilliant piece of writing will never see the light of day because they're never gonna let us make this. And they did, thank God, and a massive credit to them. But it was a lot of conversations about getting them comfortable with being very, very, very uncomfortable.
So they had a sense of humor.
They did, and you know, Mattel, they're a toy company and they haven't made a movie before. So
Yeah.
there's also like a educational process of like, oh, okay, this is what you're reading on the page. It took a second for me to realize that some of their concerns could be assuaged just by explaining the process of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
film.
yeah.
You know, for some things they're like, but Barbie's saying this. And I'd be like, okay, but this is how I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then I'd say it and they're like, oh, and I'm like, see how my face is telling you that I don't think that, but
Okay.
the words are saying that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's subtext, and there's subtext all through that, you know, so, and they'll be like, oh, okay, so they're, and then still there's some jokes where they're just like, do we have to use the word fascist? do we need that bit where Mattel employee gets shot? Do they have to be shot? You know, we're like, yeah. So there were certain jokes, and I was so prepared to like fight for certain jokes, and then like, you know, to explain like, no, we have to have that joke because it this and this and this, and some of them they're just like we're fine with, and then other jokes I didn't think they'd have a problem with, you know, but it was never a case of, oh, they didn't like that, so let's cut it. It was no, we need to explain why we think that should be in,
Yeah.
and get everyone, like I said, comfortable with being uncomfortable. Did you think so many people were gonna watch a movie about the making of the atomic bomb?
No. Christopher Nolan was always determined that it would be released in the summer as a big tentpole movie. That was always his plan, and he has this kind of superstition around that date, the
Do all his
21st.
movies come out on that day?
In and around the 21st of July, or it could be always the 21st. They always come out then.
I mean, it's a good date.
It's a good day. It is
picked
now.
that day too.
Yeah, I know.
I remember one of the producers, Chuck
Yeah.
Groven, called me because we worked together on some other projects.
Okay.
And he was like, I think you guys should move your date. And I was like, we're not moving our date. If you're scared to be up against us, then you move your date. And he's like, we're not moving our date. I just think it'd be better for you to move. And I was like, we're not moving. I think this is a really great pairing, actually. I think it's like,
Well,
it's a perfect double billing, Oppenheimer and Barbie.
that was a good instinct.
Clearly the world agreed.
Yeah,
Thank
they
God.
did. But I think that both of these films show the appetite that the audience has for cinema.
I'm always like, you know, everyone talks about the algorithm. I'm like,
Yeah.
how on earth is an algorithm tracking me? Because I have such an eclectic taste. If you look, you'd be like, wow, she's going from, you know, that black and white film from the 20s to Love Island. So
Yeah.
like, what box do I put her in?
Yeah.
Same thing. But the fact that people were going and being like, I'll watch Oppenheimer first, then Barbie. I was like, see,
Yeah.
you don't, people like everything. People are weird. People have
Yeah.
specific and wide-ranging tastes.
And they don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
Audiences don't like being told you should see this or you should see that. They will decide and they will generate the interest themselves. And I think what happened with both of our movies was a case in point of that the audience decided, you know, that this was correct and this was right.
I think they were also really excited by the filmmakers.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think
People
you're
are
right.
like itching for the next Chris Nolan film and itching for the next Greta Gerwig film.
Yes.
To get them at the same time was, you know, exciting.
Quantum mechanics says it's both. How can it be both?
It can't.
It can't. But it is. It's paradoxical, and yet it works.
Because I'm a fan of yours, I have watched a lot of your things on the internet, on YouTube. And there's kind of like, it's out there on the internet that you're not that aware of memes and things like that. First of all, is that true? And second of all, if that is true, were you even aware of the Barbenheimer like phenomenon, or were you just blissfully unaware because you use a dial-up phone or something?
No, I have teenage boys. I have 2 teenage boys, so
So they-
they keep doing this. So, and I do know what a meme is. Now I know that there are memes about me not knowing what a meme is.
It's a great meme.
But
It's like inception of memes, a meme within a meme.
It is. I genuinely, at the time, did not know. But people forget that was.
A while ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
You know.
I might not have known back then what a meme is.
No, and I mean
I'm not that tech savvy.
exactly, and I think children started that stuff, right? So.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily. But now that it's become this sort of like meme that's eating itself, I am aware, but it's mostly because of people either sending it to me or showing, saying, "Look, you got to look at this."
Yeah.
But I do think that.
Did you see any of the Barbenheimer?
I mean, it was
fan art?
impossible to
Wasn't there some great ones?
avoid any of that stuff, which is
People are so clever with the things they come up
it was incredible, and it was self-generated. You know what I mean?
I know. People kept asking me, they're like, so the studio's talking, each marketing department's talking to each other, and I was like, no, this is the world doing this.
The world.
This is not a part of the marketing campaign. This is just happening.
And I think it happened because like both movies were good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing. And there was a sort of a diversity offered by both movies. In fact, that summer there was a huge diversity of stuff in the cinema, and like I think it just connected in a way that you or I or the studios or anybody could never have predicted. We could never
You can't force
have
that.
predicted.
You
No,
can't orchestrate that.
no,
Just
and it may never happen again.
I know.
You know,
I mean, it was wild seeing that many people going to the movies.
yeah.
Wild. Did you go to the movie?
Did you go to see Oppenheimer or did you go to see Barbie?
Do you sneak out and see like what the vibe is? I mean, we were going around to cinemas checking like levels and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're a producer and you got to do that. I try to avoid looking at myself. I struggle with it.
Isn't the mask the best thing?
The what?
Now
Oh, yes.
I wear a mask everywhere.
Yes,
And I
that
can
is.
go everywhere again. It's so
But
good.
I wouldn't volunteer to go and to see myself.
No,
in it. But I do know that Chris and Emma, Chris Nolan and Emma Thomas, his wife, producer, I think they were sneaking into...
Checking how it's...
Yeah, but then like the fact that people were going dressed up as Barbie or dressed up as Oppenheimer to go and see the movies multiple times, it's kind of so flattering and, you know, kind of overwhelming and so great for cinema.
Totally.
Yeah. Like being the producer and being the star of the movie, how did you manage to kind of, I guess, split those responsibilities, or was that difficult? Were you always going to play Barbie?
I wasn't always going to, not necessarily. I, you know, even when we got the property and sat with Mattel, I said, you know, they were like, will you play Barbie?
Yeah.
And I said, no, that's up to the filmmaker. So it's, you know, I want to go after Greta Gerwig and she should cast whoever she wants. And if that's not me, like, that's okay. And I said that to Greta as well. It's like, you write the script that you want to write, you and Noah write it, and if you think I'm the right actor for it, great. And if you don't, like, let's go get the best actor for it. Like,
Cool.
I didn't mind. I really wanted to produce this. I really wanted to make this. It wasn't until I read the script that I was like, oh, I have to play it.
Yeah.
And she'd written it like Barbie Margo, so
Right,
she made
okay.
it pretty clear, like, no, I want you to play this role. But you've done 5 movies with Christopher Nolan now.
This
right?
is 6, actually.
6, really?
Yeah.
So you like the guy? Big fan.
It seems to work. You know, I mean, this is the first time playing a proper lead role for him. They'd always been supporting parts over the years. It's 20 years we're working together.
Has your relationship changed or evolved in that time?
I mean, I think that it's probably gotten, you know, richer, I think. You know, I was certainly just kind of starting off back then, or starting to work properly in film, and he had just made the leap in, you know, from making independent films into making big studio movies, and he was taking over this franchise for the first time with Batman Begins, and obviously just nailed it. But I think he's refining his kind of vision and how the types of stories he wants to tell and how he wants to present them. You know, like moving into IMAX, and you know, was the first
When
director
did he
to
start
do that.
shooting always in the large format?
I think it was Dark Knight, where I think that opening sequence at the beginning, I think that's in IMAX. You remember when Heath breaks into the bank and all that? I think that's in IMAX. I think that's I could be wrong, but I think that's one of the first times that he started using it. But like in Oppenheimer, we were using it almost all of the time.
Yeah.
And they come at you, it's like a
film. I mean, those cameras must be so heavy,
yeah.
so loud.
So loud, so heavy. Have you worked with him with IMAX?
No.
It's
But I know he shoots on IMAX and always on film. So
Yeah.
I imagine, like, to get more than a 4-minute take, those mags must be massive.
they're huge. And our amazing DP, Hoyta, was like, carries them everywhere. Like, I remember in Dunkirk, we'd be like on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and Hoyta would have the thing on his shoulder, and it's like these beautifully composed shots. But to answer your question, I don't know. I suppose as you get older, you just get a bit more confident in the sort of stories you want to tell. And I suppose I've learned a huge amount from working with Chris in terms of focus and rigor and dedication. I think we have similar tastes, and I think he may have, helped form my tastes. But before I even worked with him, the movies that he had made prior to Batman Begins, I was a fan of, and I really just wanted to, meet him. And that happens a lot, isn't it? Like, you're fans of directors, and then you get to meet them, and next thing you're working with them, and it's kind of nuts because you were at home watching their movies when you were a kid.
I don't know if it happens a lot, but when it does happen, it's like magic.
This is true.
Amazing.
I'm sure that's happened to you.
It has. I've like reached out to people I really want to work with.
Yeah, I've done that. Written letters.
Letters and yeah. The letter thing does work, I have to say.
It does.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does.
People appreciate a handwritten letter that you
Yeah.
sat down to write. I believe in that.
Yeah. I feel like I don't like playing lead roles because I feel like you have more responsibility, and like
Yeah.
as a supporting role, you can kind of be a little more like wild, and
Yeah.
I don't know, like I avoid playing lead roles.
Really?
I haven't done it that much. Not where like my character's the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Only I, Tonya, have I done that really. Did you feel that sense of like, oh, I have to carry the weight of this story because I am playing Oppenheimer and the movie is Oppenheimer? Or did you approach it, did it feel just the same as when you've worked with him in other instances?
No, it did feel different. Like he called me up out of the blue because he's never, like I didn't even know he was writing it. So he called me up out of the blue, or Emma Thomas, his wife, the producer, she called me because Chris doesn't have a phone. So she put me on to Chris, and he said in his, very understated British way, I'm just making this movie, I'm Oppenheimer, I'd like to play the part. And so it was like, wham, out of nowhere. Luckily, I was unemployed at the time. I just finished something, I wasn't doing anything. But I did realize then that it was different to the other jobs I'd done with him because it was the story of Oppenheimer's life. And then when he eventually gave me the script, it was written in the first person, which I'd never read before. And so I kind of...
The script was written in the first person?
Yes.
Like the big print would be like, I'm going to put the cup down and move towards the door.
Exactly.
That's
which I'd never read before. And so it was very clear that he wanted it to be truly subjective storytelling, And that did add to the response, the feeling of like, oh, fuck, this is a biggie. But then I knew as well that he was going to people it with all these extraordinary actors. And the thing about all those roles is they're all characters of significant consequence. They're very consequential characters in history and in the movie. We put all these extraordinary actors in the... Yeah, it was bonkers. Every time he would tell me, Gary Oldman's going to pop in and, we got Downey to play Straws. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is that you felt very, very supported and secure in that. Yeah. Because you knew...
Share the burden a little bit with
completely. Yeah.
Cast.
It felt lovely. And I think I've developed a short time with Chris over the years. Like we do understand each other. I think we share a similar kind of taste or approach to storytelling. He's a master. He's a master filmmaker.
Why do you love working with him, and why do you think he loves working with you?
I'll have to ask
I know
him
you're going to be really humble and be like, I don't know, why does he like me? I can't understand. But
I don't know. I mean,
take a guess.
With Chris, you see, it's just the work. Like, he's not interested in anything else other than the work and the filmmaking, and he is incredibly focused and it's incredibly rigorous.
Is it true he wears a suit every day to set?
He does wear a very similar attire every day. But the reason I think that is, and I think it makes sense to me, is that it's as a director, you have so many decisions.
Greta wore a boiler suit every day.
Every day.
She had a different one for every day of the week. She was like, it's one piece of clothing, it's got pockets so I can put my notebook and pens and all that. And she was like, it's a decision I don't have to make, and I have to make 1,000 today.
You take that off the board, yeah.
And then while we were shooting, I went to the Churchill War Museum and saw that Winston Churchill did the same thing. He had like this boiler suit, and I was like, Greta.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes total sense.
And I imagine if she wore something different on set, it would freak you out. I mean, if
totally.
Chris came in a, I don't know,
Hawaiian shirt.
It would freak me out. I wouldn't be able to concentrate, and I don't think the crew would.
Yeah.
So I think it's a sensible choice, actually.
And prepping for the role, what's your prep process like?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I'll take as much as I can get.
Yeah.
With this one, it was 6 months from when he called me to when we started shooting, and I would have taken another 6 months if I could have got it.
When he called you and said movie about Oppenheimer, were you like, gotcha, or were you like, I should go read the book. I know nothing about it.
I knew kind of very basic, Wikipedia level. No, I knew about the Trinity tests, and I knew about, the Manhattan Project, and then obviously what happened in the second in 45. But like I didn't No, what happened afterwards or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um,
So you read a lot to prep. What else do you do?
like walk around my basement talking to myself.
Really? Do you
Yeah.
record yourself?
I do sometimes. Do you?
No, only if I'm doing dialect stuff.
Yeah.
But I prep like a psychopath as well.
Yeah, it's the only way, isn't it?
I'll prep as long as I possibly can. I remember I started prepping one role and then COVID happened. And so I ended up prepping the one role for like a year. And I was like losing my mind by the end of it. My husband walked in and I was like making like weird masks and stuff. And I was like covered in paint. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I think I've gone too far with this character. We need this to end. I need to get on set.
It's the only way, though. I think this is the only...
Because then I can walk on set and just be like totally free.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't prepped, like I'd be so terrified. Like when I hear some other actors, I like look at their script and there's nothing written on it. I'm like, I'd be so terrified if I didn't have like a bazillion notes and thoughts.
Yeah.
Then I'd be having all those thoughts on set as opposed to just like...
Exactly. And I think, when you get on set, time is your most important commodity, as you know, and the last thing you want to be doing is figuring it out.
No.
You gotta, every second counts, so you want to do all the figuring out before and then park it, Yeah. And Chris is the king of prep, and, I don't know if Greta's the same, but he has like, crew that he works with forever, so they know how he works, and he preps with those guys for a long, long time. And so when we come on set, it's like, it's fast.
Like go time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fast. And he just kind of expects excellence from everyone.
Love that.
Yeah, which I think all the best ones do.
Yeah.
And I think everyone gets that. It's an unspoken thing, right?
I thought if I could find a way to combine physics and New Mexico, my life would be perfect.